At number 4, I've got Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins, and I would have Tua higher if he didn't perform the way in which he did against the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football. Listen, Tua has 2,000 yards already on the season, completion percentage of 71%, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, passer rating of 110. The question for me becomes now, though, there's a slight cause for concern because I have seen Miami perform now against two legitimate teams in Buffalo and in Philadelphia, and they looked average in both of those performances, and that's a little cause for concern for me. Looking at Miami, because now the question becomes: is what we saw in the first couple weeks of the season a facade, or were they just beating up on bad teams? Now, I don't want to get mistaken. In order, if you have to have some sort of level of talent, and you have to be good to some extent as a team in order to score 70 points in an NFL game. I'm not questioning that. My question is now: will they be able to rise to the occasion? Will they be good enough to knock off a Kansas City or a Baltimore in the playoffs? That now becomes my question. And because they have been performing to the way in which they have, we now have to hold them to that standard. That's the standard now Miami has to be held to. And so I'm looking at Miami and I'm looking at Tua. How will they perform against these good teams? And from what I've seen so far, that creates a little cause for concern. Now, personally, I believe that Miami is legitimate. I do think they're a great team. They just ran into a Buffalo team that's starting getting rhythm on the defensive end. And personally, Miami had a lot of opportunities to defeat Philadelphia this past weekend, but they just missed their opportunities. So, I do think Miami is legitimate, but based on how they performed and how Tua performed on Sunday night against Philadelphia, I have him at number 4. And at number 3, I have Myles Garrett. Listen, Myles Garrett already has 7.5 sacks on the season. By far the defensive player of the year. If not for his performance, the way he's been playing, you wouldn't hear anything about Cleveland because Deshaun Watson hasn't been playing to the level in which people expect him to play after getting that ginormous contract. But Myles Garrett is the catalyst for this Cleveland Browns team as a whole, not just defensively. They go as he goes. We saw his tangible impact when they played when they played Baltimore, as well as when they played Indianapolis this past weekend. And we saw how he performed when he played the 49ers as well. So he's I would need to see honestly just more victories out of Cleveland in order for me to move Myles Garrett further up on this MVP list. But there's no question that Myles Garrett is an MVP frontrunner, and it would unfortunately, because of the way that the MVP race is set up, there's got to be a narrative, there's got to be a storyline always behind it, right? And the storyline for Myles Garrett could be that Deshaun Watson doesn't perform the way he does, in the way he's supposed to, which now leads him to having to step up and the defense having to step up. That's a storyline, but we understand that sports is all about narrative, so there's always a narrative, there's always some sort of storyline that goes on that helps create that narrative that's easy to sell in the MVP race. But I have Myles Garrett at number 3. And at number 2, I have Lamar Jackson. And listen, there is understandably still a little cause for concern with Lamar Jackson in terms of his consistency. I don't think at this point anyone's questioning his ability to play the quarterback position or questioning his ability to be a great quarterback. They just need him to do it consistently. And this is what happens when you have success, like I said, as a rookie in your first year starting at an early age, early on in your career, because now that is the standard to which you're held to for the entirety of your career. Listen, Lamar Jackson won the MVP in his first year as a starter, akin to a Patrick Mahomes. And so that has been the standard now that Lamar Jackson has been held to his entire career, which isn't a bad thing. I think it's good to have that pressure. It's good to be held to that standard, because now people expect more out of you. If people didn't think Lamar Jackson was a good quarterback, they wouldn't care. They could care less about what he does. But because people have such high expectations for him, to whom much is given, much is required. And that, obviously that not only translates to sports but to life as well. So we need to learn to embrace that pressure of having a standard, of having accountability. So Lamar is by far, he's a great quarterback. So now it becomes, can you be consistent with it? And this was the first complete game that the Ravens offense played. And now guys are starting to get healthy as well for Baltimore. We saw what Baltimore was able to do even when they had the injuries. When OBJ was out, when Nelson Aguilar was out, when Zay Flowers was out, and forgive me, I'm the starting running back's name for Baltimore is Gus Edwards, and when Gus Edwards was out. But now that they got everybody back to go along with Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson now has his collection of pieces and talent around him to be proficient. And it's great to see. And now the question becomes, can you do this consistently? And I know people are going to say, yes, well, Detroit's defense hasn't been good all year. Detroit's offense didn't help because they didn't get into the red zone until the fourth quarter of the game, which meant the defense kept having to get back onto the field for Detroit, which means they were tired out. So I understand all of that. And Lamar Jackson is showing people that he is worth something I've been saying for the past 2 years, that he's worth the extension, because what's your other option? You've got the talents to win now. What are you going to do? Not sign him and let him walk, and now you're in rebuilding mode, even though you have the pieces there? You might as well go all in with him. And we have to remember that Lamar has been hurt the past 2 years. He missed 5 games last year, and he missed 5 games the year before that. We become such prisoners of the moment that we forget the success, and how quickly we forget the success that people have had. There's an old Shakespeare quote from Julius Caesar that says, "The evil that men do lives after. The good is often interred with their bones." And basically what that means, we quickly forget the good that people have done, but the bad things, the bad plays, the bad decision making that people have committed long lives after them. And in the same way with sports, same thing with football. We quickly forget the good things that these players have done, but we're quick to hound on the negative things, or the bad decision making, or the poor play that they've done. So with Lamar Jackson, we have to remember the great things he's done in this league. Now, I will say, let's get 4 or 5 of these games in a row, and then we can start, seriously considering Lamar as MVP candidate. Now I got him at number 2 now, but the margin between 1 and 2 is far greater than the margin between 2 and 3. And that's because of the guy you just saw on the screen, Patrick Mahomes, who I have at number 1. Listen, Patrick Mahomes, what is there to say? 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 2,000 yards, pass rating of 101. You can argue that that Kansas City has the best defense in the NFL. You could argue that. But listen, but I don't think it's particularly close. Patrick Mahomes is starting to pull away from everyone with this MVP race. But like I said, if Lamar Jackson can continue to string together 4 or 5 of the games in the way in which he played this past weekend, I think that will make the MVP race much closer. And also, if Myles Garrett and Cleveland can continue to perform and string together a couple more wins, that'll make the margin closer. But right now, it's not even close. I have Patrick Mahomes as my MVP front runner, and what Patrick Mahomes runs the risk of happening to him. Same thing happened to LeBron James and Michael Jordan. More so Michael Jordan than LeBron James, but these guys have become so talented and dominant in their sport that you get voter fatigue. Same thing with Alabama in college football. You get voter fatigue, and you don't want to keep rewarding these guys because you take for granted the things that they're doing and the level of play to which they're playing at, and so you want to start finding reasons to give it to other guys. But you have to appreciate talent and greatness when you see it, and just like Michael Jordan missed out on a lot of MVPs because of the voting, LeBron James missed out on a couple of MVPs because of the voting. Patrick Mahomes is going to run the risk of missing out on a couple of MVP awards because of voter fatigue. And it's unfortunate, but I think that's what happens when you reach a certain level of greatness. But we can't fall into that trap. We have to be unbiased. We have to be objective, and we have to analyze what we're looking at with intent and purpose. And when you look at the film, when you look at the level of play, the guy and the way in which guys have been playing, there's no question that Patrick Mahomes is the MVP front runner, especially what he's been able to do with the pieces around him. No one would question that he doesn't have as much talent around him as he had in previous years. The addition of Mecole Hardman helps him out tremendously. But there's not as much talent on that Kansas City offense as there was in years prior, and for Patrick Mahomes to still be able to perform the way in which he's performing is phenomenal. It's a testament, like I said, to his greatness. But those are my MVP front runners so far, guys. Those are my top 4. Let me know what you guys think about that in the chat room. Am I off? Am I accurate? Who are your MVP front runners? Leave your thoughts in the chat room, guys. But with that being said, that's it for our show for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a wonderful show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest content. And be sure to follow us on Patreon as well. You can do so by going to patreon.com, clicking on the search bar, and typing in "Sorry to Bother You" show. That way you can get access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/sorry-to-bother-you-show/tip. Once again, it's streamelements.com/sorry-to-bother-you-show/tip. Listen, none of this is possible without you guys as fans, so we're so grateful and honored for all the love and support that you show us, and it's an honor and privilege to be here. So, with that being said, guys, we'll be back again, same time tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with our basketball show tomorrow. So, that's something you're not going to miss, guys. But until next time, guys, can you stay safe, be vigilant, make smart decisions, and